Chapter 13. The Desert. We traveled from Spawn Ranch in different vehicles. Some were purchased and customized, and others procured at the last minute. Memorable is the clean-cut visiting college boy who, in wanting to help, went to a car dealership to price VWs. He returned to the ranch only briefly to tell us that the dealer, eager to make a sell, had hastily offered him a test drive and tossed him the keys, saying, "It's all yours." So we took it. When we arrived at the mouth of Goler Wash, I was proud to present my 2-week-old son to Charlie. Still very sore, I rode with him in the Jeep, the baby tucked under my breast. A week later, I would walk miles with the rest of the girls, sometimes carrying him on my lower back in a hunting sack designed to carry ducks. It was just the right size. Lying by the fire nursing my son, I imagined seeing the world through his new eyes, and I felt gratitude that these were among his first impressions. He was being washed in the light of millions of stars, clean air, soft breezes, deep quietude, and the love and care of my friends. Barker's ranch was now occupied by more permanent squatters. A gray-haired, erstwhile prospector named Paul, tall, swarthy, and weathered, blocked the doorframe. Behind him, around the kitchen table, the Paul we knew, Juan and Brooks, sat in self-conscious postures. After the elder Paul stepped aside and we entered the house, the young Paul sat upright and forced his overproud smile. But Juan and Brooks leaned back in their chairs, staring at the center of the table. The older man, with alternately self-righteous and suspicious expressions, had claimed the space and commanded the order. We would hear rumors that he'd once been a military deprogrammer, and that the 3 younger men were under his tutelage. Whether he was the product of the military or a freelance philosopher was unclear, but we could tell that he did not want these men distracted by women. After a brief, awkward visit, we left, and thenceforth referred to Barker's ranch as Man's Camp, and to Paul Watkins as Little Paul, to distinguish him from the older, taller one. Tex, Gypsy, and I were crossing the desert in a dune buggy and had paused in a gully to rest when 2 rangers came over a ridge above us. Cutting their engine, they parked their Jeep on a hill and walked down the slope to meet us. After cordial small talk, they asked to see our IDs. I don't recall how many of us had IDs, but Tex was very cool, relaxing the atmosphere. One of the men asked, "Where's Charlie?" Tex spoke up. He said, "I'm Charlie." "The other Charlie?" They clarified, smiling. I believe it was Gypsy who answered next, also smiling. "I'm Charlie." Tex shrugged with his big affable grin and said, "We're all Charlies." This banter was cut short when the men saw another man on the hill near their Jeep. They rushed to catch up to him, their hands holstered on their guns. But when they reached the top of the hill, the Charlie they were looking for was gone, and when they jumped into their Jeep to give chase, they couldn't start the engine. The doors flew open, and they got out. We took this as a cue to get in our dune buggy and hightailed it. Several of us were walking leisurely on a dirt road when we heard vehicles and walkie-talkie radios. Little Patty grabbed me, pulling me and Cho into the bushes, where I crouched with my hand covering his mouth. We witnessed Sheriff searching our dune buggy. After the badges left, we knew the heat was on. When Charlie saw the white comforter and the baby things I was carrying, he said, "Too much white. It needs to be camouflaged." Reluctantly, I dragged the diapers and quilt through the desert dirt until they blended in. From then on, our days were spent on the cliffs, being still and aware of plains, and taking only a sip of our small supply of water per day. We had way too much in our packs, so we stashed some of it in pocket caverns. At night we could stretch and sneak down to the water hole. Sandy. There was a tiny shack at Willow Springs in Butte Valley where we drank and bathed in water pouring from a large pipe. One dusk, as we were gathered in front of the shack, Charlie spoke to a bunch of us about the need to defend ourselves. He said he couldn't be everywhere for everyone. He demonstrated martial arts moves as well as some motions that he had evolved for his own survival. Hefty gypsy lolling in the doorway, wearing a wool plaid shirt over a long skirt and holding a shotgun, looked tough enough to scare anyone. A group of us girls set out on a journey. Charlie said he and Clem would meet us on the opposite side of a distant mountain. It was hard to tell how far. We walked towards that mountain for some days, stopping at night to make small fires, cook oatmeal or rice, and lay blankets on the ground. Upon reaching the mountain, we began the long, difficult ascent up sharp rocks. It was then I felt the baby wasn't safe enough in my arms, so I traded him for the sack of brown rice Ruth was carrying. She was sure-footed and 8 years younger than me. I'd been so jealous of her that I couldn't see her, and now I completely trusted her to carry my infant son up a craggy, treacherous mountain at night. We climbed for hours and settled on a sandy plateau with sheer high cliffs on either side. Exhausted, we laid out our gear, and I fell asleep nursing my baby. The next morning, Charlie found us and gave us the all clear so we could make the descent into Butte Valley. Food was in short supply, and people were looking thin. But because I was nursing, I was given first consideration and ate half a can of fruit cocktail. I washed the wet and soiled diapers in the dirt, shook them out, and got ready for the climb down the mountain to a jeep and several dune buggies. As many of us as could piled into the jeep, and Charlie sped through the valley. The wind was whipping my face, and the valley floor with its surrounding mountains was brilliantly lit by the red glow of the setting sun. These wild rides in dune buggies or jeeps with Charlie driving and the baby and I tucked in safely beside him were exhilarating. He stopped where the ground was more densely covered with bushes. We quickly unloaded and stretched our camouflaged parachutes over vehicles and between bushes, then placed bushes on top of everything, and climbed inside our bushy cavern just as the airplanes arrived to canvass our area. They didn't see us. Ruth. We moved camp. The moon was out. As the jeep headed slowly into the desert, a long line of dancing witches swept away the tracks behind it with desert brooms. We were disappearing, leaving no track or squashed down plant to let anyone know that we had headed in any direction. The jeep stopped after a long, long way, and soon all the witches caught up. Here was our new home. Now someone had to go to Barker Ranch and let Tex and Brindle know where we were. It was a 10-mile walk, the straightest route over hills. I decided to stop thinking, walk out in the night, and have a good time on me way. The desert has so many voices and moans and groans and whistles. It has everything imaginable, and that's what I did. I let my imagination go and died 1,000 million deaths every second, right on the point. But at last I arrived at the Barker Ranch in time to see the dune buggy fixed and ride in it to the jeep. It was getting light mighty fast, so we found a good stash for the buggy. We covered it with bushes and rocks and all the desert things that stashed dune buggies nicely. Just as we were finishing, we spotted a green Jeep far in the distance. Early morning made it clearer. And behind it was another one, and another one, all official green. If they had spotted us already, we knew to lead them away from the Jeep and the family of elves and witches. Tex picked out a white shale mountain to lead us up and up. Tex is like a lean, keen mountain goat, so we managed most beautifully. We had no shade, so there we lay on a white mountain, watching a bunch of green Jeeps race around with little stiff gray men looking for us and yelling, "We know you're here. Come out." Come down, they didn't say. The sun gets hot fast in the desert, and we quickly had peeled off our night clothes. The little men bored us into sleep, as the sun browned us and dried our tongues. At nightfall we awoke to the sound of an engine. It was a dune buggy with messengers of our new camp high in the hills. We usually traveled only at night. One time we were caught in a shallow arroyo at dawn. The day was too hot to travel, and we needed sleep. Charlie suggested the parachutes for cover. Minutes later, we were about 15 people and at least one baby, lying side by side in a dry riverbed beneath a camouflaged parachute. I awoke, perspiring, hearing noises on the bank above us. It was a vehicle. It stopped. Almost everyone was either sleeping or listening. 2 men were edging the embankment, less than 6 feet above us, discussing their weekend plans. It was so quiet we could hear their words. Then Zizo woke up, making small sounds. I grabbed a bottle of milk or water, desperately hoping he would accept it. He did. I think that I have never been as tense listening to these men come terribly close to us, so it was a huge relief to hear them conclude that we were not there, turn, walk back to their vehicle, and drive away. The next time I saw a man's camp, it had been vacated. I didn't know where Juan, Brooks, and the 2 Pauls had gone. 7 or 8 of us girls came in at dusk, meeting up with Charlie and some of the guys. Before all else, we savored the taste and feel of water. Then we ate a small meal and put on extra clothes. It was the season of hot days and cold nights. Some of us wore knit hats. Each of us downed a tab of acid and headed out the door, picking up several shovels and a pickaxe. Across the road, halfway up a steep hill, Katie built a small fire. It allowed us to see a roughly 12-foot square bunker dug into the slope, about 3 feet deep at the front and 5 feet deep at the rear. Some of the guys had spent hours digging, and part of the hillside was solid rock. One of the last things they did was to carry a thick double mattress up the hill and place it in the bunker. Now it was up to us girls. All night long we worked, searching the landscape for materials to complete the bunker. Remnants of shacks and mine shafts were around, and I recalled some thick beams for the roof. More surprising to me than finding them in the dark was that I could carry a 10-foot beam up a hill on my shoulder simply by keeping it balanced. Once the beams were across the bunker, we found corrugated sheet metal to place over them. A gigantic canvas tarp had been left for us to cover the tin. Then we piled shovelfuls of sand on top of the tarp and dug up dry bushes to plant in the sand. We selected a big piece of desert brush for the entrance, and many of us tried it, dropping down into the bunker and pulling the bush behind us. At some point, one of the girls, I think it was Leslie, was sitting inside, fitting together small stones in a gap between the roof and the walls. The result was invisibility, even at night when the bunker was lit outside. When the bunker was lit inside, it could not be seen from the outside. Charlie and I think Bruce had gone to the city for supplies. Clem and the rest of the guys had gone off exploring. It was early morning. Little Patty and I were taking shovels back to Granny's. Sadie, in a bright red shirt, came out of the bunker to take a leak, and several hills over, the Inyo County sheriffs were watching through binoculars. From behind the house I heard the crackle of police radios. A man in khaki uniform with a bayonet appeared on the hill above us, shouting. Several more came at us from the front, giving commands. "Stop! Keep your hands up! Don't move!" Two came towards me, but as soon as they reached to put their hands on me, I backed away, telling them, "You're not supposed to..." Smash! I was punched in the face and went down. They searched me. From distant hills, girls and babies were brought to Barker's at rifle point. Brenda lay half naked, asleep in the sand. When a rock hit her back, she awoke hearing strange male voices. She grabbed her shirt and ran. They shouted their intentions to shoot her, but she kept running, swooping down to stash some acid. She made it over another hill before meeting more bayonets. A loud shot sounded, a bullet piercing the tin roof of the bunker. The big bush in front of the door moved. Katie, Sadie, and Leslie came out of the hole beneath it, each of them kneeling or standing with their hands up. Leslie said later she felt the whiz of the bullet that entered the bunker as it went by her head. Clem and two younger guys were apprehended near the foot of the wash, chained together, and walked up to Barker's in front of a truck. We were kept for hours on the dirt in Barker's front yard, while deputies repeatedly spread out to search and regathered. They were electrified, jocular, scornfully baiting us. "Where's Jesus Christ?" one called. "We want to crucify him." After 9 hours, we were all loaded into trucks and jeeps, transported to Inyo County Jail, and variously charged with grand theft auto, receiving stolen property, and an unregistered gun. Charlie had missed the bus. So had Cappy and Country Sue. The girls arrived late at Barker's, with Charlie later to follow. Finding that we'd all been arrested, they rushed down the wash to a town with a payphone to catch him before he left. When he answered the phone, Cappy told him, "Wait, don't come. Everyone's been busted." He said, "I'll be right there." Charlie. Your world outside was complex, and you wanted much, even more than you understood. For to have a child, you must have water, air, and the earth's food. The problems of the world are thousands of years old, set in thoughts of kings and emperors gone. You said you wanted change, freedom from your own thoughts, no war, peace, harmony, and newness. You showed a love of awareness that you were robbed of by the schools that taught you what to think. And you laid down your lives upon the machine that was warring upon itself in the earth. You are all my father also. I know only what I was taught and shown. I went as far with you as your love would carry you, and death would be the easy part. You've seen me walk away from movie stars and millions of dollars. For what? For a new experience. If someone else wants you, and you freely want whatever it is, go. I would take nothing except the world if it was given. I already did when no one was looking. Death died, and a TV camera was there to catch the last drop of blood, to sell the last heartbeat of fear, and they made a movie out of it. And the money kept buying and selling your love as fear, and the world's birds of prey keep feeding from your breast. Charles Manson, number B-33920, circa 1981, California State Prison. I've no thought of defeat. Unaware, I never gave up, never surrendered. I can be broken and dead, but to lose is impossible, because you cannot destroy the universe. Lynette Fromme spent 34 years in prison after pointing a 1911 model Colt .45 pistol at the President of the United States in order to get her imprisoned friends back in a courtroom. There was no bullet in the chamber of the gun.